In an offseason full of questions, I do have a few things that I am very confident on. We're going to talk about the offensive side of the ball here and now.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, author of Touchdown Miami on Substack, NFL staff writer for A to Z Sports. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, we are breaking out the confidence meter on the offensive side of the ball here on today's show. Tomorrow, we'll do the defensive side of the ball. But we're looking at the offensive line, the skill players, the quarterback play. How confident are we that the performance that we'll get in 2026 is better than the performance that we got in 2025? And I think the start here, you look at some statistical stuff. We'll go through the actual rooms and the names. And I'll give a 1 through 10, 10 being the most confident, 1 being the least confident, that things are going to be better than they were last year in that room with the talent that's available. But I just want to start with some overall offensive performance metrics, like the Dolphins last year ranked 27th in the NFL in giveaways, 24 giveaways. They were 29th in interceptions thrown with 18. I'm like an 8 out of 10 that they are going to be better in that area in 2026 than they were in 2025. Because it's going to be about simplicity. It's going to be about getting back to basics. It's going to be not beating ourselves. We're going to run the ball more. So I would suspect that we are going to be more secure with the ball in 2026 as compared to last year, where obviously they had 3 turnovers against the Colts, 3 turnovers against the Chargers, 4 turnovers against the Browns, 3 turnovers against the Ravens, 3 turnovers against the Bengals. Like some catastrophic games. So put me like an 8 out of 10. We'll be better in the giveaway territory than last season. Passing. We mentioned all the folks about running the football, and obviously there's a quarterback transition here and Bobby Slowick. The Dolphins passed for 3,068 yards in 17 games last season. I ranked 25th in the NFL. I think they'll be better there. I'm like a 7 out of 10 confidence that maybe the passing volume is in a similar territory where they ranked 30th in pass attempts last season with 479. Maybe they don't pass the ball a ton more. They might even pass the ball less than what they did last season. But I do think because of the extended playability at quarterback, I do think what they are going to try to do with the play action passing with a commitment to running the ball, I think there will be a better per yardage or per attempt efficiency on your targets. I think they'll find some more success getting some more explosive plays in the passing game, even if they don't ramp up the passing volume. Pretty confident there. I think that's like a 7 out of 10. As far as running the ball, I am very I'm a 10 out of 10. They're going to run the ball more times than they did this past season. They ranked 24th in rush attempts last year, 432 attempts. Give me the over on that. Very confident. Will it see the same level of efficiency as what it did last year? When they averaged 4.7 yards per attempt. That was 4th best in the NFL. I'm less confident there because that is a lofty number. And that is kind of sometimes an explosive run statistic. The Dolphins in 24 averaged 4 yards a carry. Right? And then you go back to 2023, they averaged 5.1 and they were first in the league. I don't expect that kind of prolificness with Bobby Slowick as the offensive coordinator in comparison to Mike McDaniel. But there's give and take there, right? Would I expect De'Von Achane year over year to be one of the more explosive backs in football? Sure. I think you can really help yourselves by eliminating the negative runs. We've exhausted, and I don't have the stats on hand on me now, and we've done the show before. But the Dolphins are among the league's worst as far as runs that went for negative yardage in the last 4 seasons. Just cut down on that, and you can put yourself in the ballpark. I'd say 5 out of 10 that they average 4.7 or better. So in short, I think their ball security and I think their explosive play rate is going to be better offensively. I think they're going to run the ball more. I can't guarantee they're going to average the same prolific yards per carry attempt. And they threw for 23 touchdowns last season. I'm like a 5 out of 10 that we're better there too, just because I don't expect there to be a ton of points because they're going to play a slower style of football, right? Now, maybe they go no tempo, so maybe their tempo is fast. But they are going to try to possess the ball. And from a time of possession standpoint, Miami ranked 20th in their average time of possession on offensive possessions last season. 2 minutes and 49 seconds on average. That's bottom 12, bottom dozen in the league. And from a plays perspective, they were 29th in plays per drive and 26th in yards per drive and 24th in points per drive. I don't know that they're going to be better than that because, you got to be able to close in the red zone. You really got to have the run game humming. I'll take the over. I'll give me like a 7 out of 10 on more than 14 rushing touchdowns just because I think that's the DNA of who they're going to be. But that might come at the expense of not being better in passing touchdowns this past season. I think they'll be better in turnovers, and that in and of itself I can live with. A few more things. Red zone, they were 20th. 56.3%. I think the size can help. I think a Caleb Douglas frame can help. I think a Greg Dulcich full season emergence, take those first 8 weeks of the season when Tanner Connor's getting targets in the red zone and getting hit between the eyes with the football against the Colts and not catching it. You might get a few more touchdowns from the tight ends position. I'd like to think that they're better, but put me 5 out of 10 right in the middle. Like, they don't have the proven perimeter play, big body type to kind of feed targets to in the passing game, so it's going to have to be the tight ends. They're 27th in third down conversion rate, less than 35%. That's a rough number. I would like to think that they'll be better there, but give me like a 6 out of 10 there, right? If you're living in long and late downs, if you get behind the sticks, I don't think you're well positioned unless the quarterback is really using his legs to have a lot of success there. So that's the stats portion of the show. The thing I'm most confident in is they're going to run the ball more. I'm relatively confident that the takeaways or the giveaways will be better and that the net yards per attempt, which was 5.9 last season, will be better. It'll be above 6. That number for Tua Tagovailoa was 5.95 last year. And that was for Tua the worst he's had since his rookie season, which was 5.41. Oh, and obviously he topped out in 22 at 8.04, 7.56 in 2023, 6.46. He dropped more than a net yard per attempt in 2024 and then dropped another half a yard into 2025. The last thing that I have from a stats perspective, I lied. I'm a 7.5 or 8 out of 10 that the sack rate will go up. And that is the nature of a quarterback that is going to hold and extend plays and use his legs. I mean, Tua last year was sacked on 7% of his dropbacks. That was as startling of a number as I could think. I mean, that it was almost a full percentage point higher than Tua had ever had in a season. He was sacked 30 times in 14 games. He'd never been sacked more than 29 times in a game, and that was in 2023 when he played all the games. And the next highest rate before that was 21, which happened in 13 games in 2022 and 11 games in 2024. Like his rookie season was 6.5%. Everything else, the rest of the Mike McDaniel era and the last year under Flores was 5% or better. It was 7.25 last season. That's a high number, but I think it'll be in the same ballpark. So the Dolphins for the season last year, 7.35%. Ewers was sacked on nearly 9% of his dropbacks. I don't know that it'll be that high, but that is just kind of a reality is you live and die by the sword as an extended play player at the quarterback position. Your offensive line's not going to know where you're at. If you're getting off your spot, it's going to create some more miscommunications, but that will then also come with successful runs when you would otherwise be dead on arrival in the pocket. And that will come with extended plays and getting outside the pocket and making things happen with your feet. So you just have to live with it. But I do think the sack rate will be higher. Not too much higher, but put me to like a 7.5 or 8 out of 10 that the sack rate will be higher than 7.3%, which was last season. All right, we're going to get into the actual rooms and ask ourselves, will this group perform better than what we got last year? Yes or no? That on the other side of the break. Make sure you guys stick with us. Biggest stage in world soccer is here. Every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match. Hit bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. You guys stayed up and watched the game last night for Team USA. Made us sweat a little bit the final 30 minutes with the controversial red card, but they do end up scoring an additional goal in the 82nd minute on a free kick, which was a really exciting moment. And if you had your token on, every goal pays. From the opening whistle to final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. So we'll start in the skill room. Quarterback. Will the Dolphins receive better performance in 2026 from the quarterback room of Malik Willis, Quinn Ewers, blank, question mark, anybody else, who knows, than what they did last year from the combination of Tua Tagovailoa, rookie year Quinn Ewers, and Zach Wilson? Well, Quinn being another year older, I would assume he would be a better version of himself. That's not always a safe assumption, but I would assume it to be true. And Tua played his worst season as a pro, in my opinion, last year. The turnovers, the lack of confidence in the things that had identified him to be a player that you could win games with last season kind of went up in smoke. You obviously have a much more prolific skill set with Malik Willis, with what his arm strength is and what he can do as an athlete. I am going to say with a 6 out of 10 confidence, with 10 being the most confident and 1 being the least confident, that the Dolphins are going to get better quarterback play out of this year's quarterback room than they did last year. Now, Willis, there's a whole bunch of variance there, and that's why that number's not a whole bunch higher. And there's a whole bunch of questions about what else is around him that creates uncertainty. But the bar is on the floor with what you got for too many games last season. Like Tua, I didn't think Tua played a good game until the Atlanta game last season. He played well enough to win some of the games that they did not win. I don't hold him ultimately responsible for the Chargers game because they went down and they scored with a minute left and led a game-winning drive situation in that opportunity. I thought he played fine against the Jets, but he didn't blow the doors off it. He came out firing against Carolina. I guess he played well enough to win in that game. But the 2-minute offense situation at the end where you took the sacks and they chose to punt is a catastrophic sequence. And you missed a throw that could have been a drive starter and been an explosive play on that drive. I'm not going to beat it into the ground, right? Like, it's done. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad the discourse, we can move on. We can argue about a different quarterback, and everybody's already arguing about Malik Willis and what it looks like and whether or not they should be winning games or if they should march for Arch, even though we don't have any idea what Arch Manning is as an NFL prospect just yet. And he's got a lot of ball game left to put things together in his regime, other than if you just see the name on the back of the jersey, right? Like, we can argue about all that kind of stuff. 6 out of 10 confidence. Dolphins get better quarterback play out of this year's room than what they got out of last year's room. Not measuring versus the entire body of work, because I don't feel confident that Malik Willis will play better than 2022, 2023 Tua Tagovailoa with the circumstances that he's fitting into, even though he's a much more prolific skill set. 25 to 26, 6 out of 10. The running back room. Health willing. Ollie's a year older. Jaylen Wright's a year older. De'Von Achane obviously back on the contract extension. I think if you're willing to look beyond just the box score numbers, because maybe Achane doesn't hit the same level of home runs that he did last year, that can be a very unstable statistic. It's a stable groom with young guys that are all now another year older. There's a regime change in place. I think they'll be more consistent with the short yardage stuff to mitigate those negative runs. They still have plenty of speed with Wright and Achane, and they have power. And, Ali coming into the season fresh. Give me a 7 out of 10 confidence that a group that is young and running it back and all guys on, or Achane's technically on the last year of his rookie contract, even though he signed an extension now. Those guys are all in the primes of their career. They should continue to take incremental steps forward. Maybe the stats don't reflect it, but I think the consistency of, okay, what are your reads? Okay, what's your assignment in pass protection if you got to stay in pass protection? How do you execute there? I think that groom has a very good chance to be as good as it was or better last year. Wide receiver, no. This is like a 3 out of 10. And the group really was not all that good last year either, right? Like Tyreek Hill goes down. You're featuring through Jaylen Waddle, who kind of fell silent. I think Jaylen Waddle's production last year with better quarterback play is probably an 1,150, 1,200 yard season. Just the opportunities that were missed, the misfires down the field. You could pull up any tape. And this is not hyperbole. Like this is, I've done this. You can look at the misfires that Jaylen Waddle had 20 plus yards downfield on incompletions where he is bare naked open. And the ball goes to him and it's left so far inside, or it's thrown way foul ball, out of bounds, over the wrong shoulder where he can't flip and track it. But the next highest receiving receiver on the team from a wide receiver standpoint was Malik Washington with 317 yards last year. Obviously, Tyreek Hill was the third highest receiving receiver on the team with 265 yards. He played in 3.5 games. The bar's on the floor, but I don't think this collection of talent, when they had Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill for the first month of the season, and then Jaylen Waddle through the end of the season, playing and starting in 16 games, I don't think this group, and I don't think it's going to produce at a very high level. I also don't think that it has to. If everybody's getting 600 yards, 500, 400 yards, you can work progressions and just kind of work and read the defense and take what they're giving you, right? And you can get by offensively until you find some players long-term to invest in. But I certainly don't look at the talent in this year's wide receiver room and say that it's better than last year's. I think it's more diverse. I think it's younger. I think it's cheaper. All of those things were necessary, but will it outperform last year's group? Maybe if you omit Jaylen Waddle and you pretend that Tyreek Hill wasn't injured and just say he's a player that had 265 yards, I'll say sure. Like they'll spread it around. But Greg Dulcich had 335. He was the third leading receiver on the team. De'Von Achane had 488. He was the second leading receiver on the team from a yardage perspective. Achane led the team in receptions with 67. But speaking of Greg Dulcich, the tight end room, I am confident that from a pass game perspective, this group is going to be good. And, Darren Waller, if you combine his production with Greg Dulcich's production, it's 50 receptions for 628 yards. I'm doing this math on the fly, and 7 touchdowns. That's kind of in line with where I think Greg's going to end up this season. Will Kazmarek and Ben Sims end up being more impactful than Julian Hill? The Julian Hill influence on the passing game was 9 yards per catch, a 2-point conversion, 15 catches on 20 targets, but never somebody that was really targeted. Put it in perspective this way. He had 4 more catches, 51 more yards than Nick Westbrook-Ikine had last year. Talk about the wide receiver room performance. I don't know that he will be as diverse as Julian, but I also don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because for me, part of Julian's, a lot of Julian's worst reps where he's given these mammoth assignments. Like, they are big boy assignments that he was given. And thoughts with Julian, obviously, he signs in New England. He's hurt already. He's going to miss a season with a knee injury. And that sucks because he's a great story and he's scrapped to get to where he's at. But I'm like a 6.5 out of 10 confident that this group is going to perform at a level that's better. It'll be more available. Right, with Waller playing in 6 games. I mean, Greg Dulcich had to sit on the sideline the first month of the season and have Tanner Connor get 15 targets. Give me 6.5 out of 10. So I think 6 out of 10 quarterback, 7 out of 10 running back. I'm like a 3 or 4 out of 10 at wide receiver. I'm like a 6.5 out of 10 at tight end. But the offensive line. Get into that on the other side of the break. Wrap this up. Make sure you guys stick with us. Offensive line. Will it be a more consistent, high-performing player than what it was last year? Let's go to the snap counts first and foremost, because I want to acknowledge who played and how much they played. Jonas Vaitai was the only player offensively that played every offensive snap last season. 983 snaps. Patrick Paul played 976. Aaron Brewer played 914. Cole Strange played 808. Larry Borum played 664. Austin Jackson plays 319. Daniel Brunskill plays 176. A large majority of that was as a 6th offensive lineman. Keon Smith plays 147. That's it for offensive linemen who played more than 60 snaps last season. Patrick Paul, year older. There's variance. Like, maybe he doesn't get in the zone as much as it felt like he was last season, but should incrementally be a more improved player in theory, health willing. Aaron Brewer. I think the big question for Aaron is whether or not the scheme change mitigates a lot of what his best characteristics are and how uniquely Miami used him under Mike McDaniel. A healthy Austin Jackson is better than Larry Borum. The question is, how long will you get healthy Austin Jackson? And then after that point passes, if it passes this season, although it is contract year Austin Jackson, the last time we had contract year Austin Jackson, he played all the games. That's 2023. If you get past that point, the question becomes, is Jamari Salyer better than Larry Borum? Yes or no? I'd say they're comparable players. So if you give a chance to be better at right tackle, or at least the same, I think Jonas Vaitai, being on his natural side and being another year experienced, should, in theory, be a better version of himself. Aaron Brewer, there's some questions about, like, a lot of his popping traits and reps were things that, accentuated how unique he was. Maybe you don't get as much of that. Patrick Paul incrementally should be better. And then Caden Proctor versus Cole Strange. Stylistically, very different player. And I know Cole Strange got $6 million a year by the Chargers to go start again for Mike McDaniel because he knows the scheme and they want to run angles and be athletic up front. I'm like an 8 out of 10 here. Now, if they get walloped by injuries and Proctor goes down and Patrick Paul misses time and Austin Jackson's hurt again, they don't have depth up front. But if you tell me that the top 4 guys all get 800 plus snaps like they got last year, that's as close as we've had to the offensive line being stable since like Bullygate. Now, granted, it was your 4th option at guard, Cole Strange, that took 808 snaps because it was James Daniels who gave you 3 snaps, and then Keon Smith gave you a game and a half, and then Daniel Brunskill got you through 3 quarters, and then you went to Cole Strange. But if you tell me the top 4 guys get 800 plus snaps, I'm looking at this group and saying the top 4, it's going to be better than last year. So I'm actually very confident that the coaching element of it and how it all sews together is the big wild card here, right? Like that's not quantified in statistical performance from last season and where the bar is set, and then just looking at the depth chart on paper. I get that. But looking at quarterback, running back, tight end, and offensive lineman, I'm at least a 6 out of 10 on all of those that you're going to get better performance than you did last year. The wide receivers, of course, being the big mystery, but the bar that was set last year was the number 2 wide receiver on the team had less than 350 yards last year. 335. Not even 317. 335 was Dulcich. And Tyreek Hill at 265. Statistically speaking, it's certainly going to be more balanced. I'm not saying it's more talented, though. I don't think you can say with honesty that it is more talented than Tyreek Hill, Jaylen, Waddle. And bringing back a few guys. Let me know what I missed. Let me know what you disagree with. Let me know what you do agree with. Let's have this conversation with curiosity. Have some good conversation off it. We'll do the defensive side of the ball tomorrow on the show. Looking forward to that. Kyle Krabs. It is your team every day here on Locked On Dolphins. Appreciate y'all for checking on the show. Make it a great rest of your day. I'll see y'all again soon. Fins up.